Hello and welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, James and I reflect on the worst times of our creative careers and what it took to come back from failure. Hope you enjoy.
Hey, Pat.
Yes, James. Sorry.
Yo. So
Yeah.
you're doing this Hannibal Lecter thing.
I was trying to, I don't know why, I was trying to look like Hannibal Lecter in the Zoom.
It was eerie how effective you were at it. So I wonder if you've maybe missed, a real opportunity in acting
But I
or
don't, yeah.
cannibalism, perhaps.
More the Lecter. Yes, I don't think I wouldn't have made a good actor. I'm probably a bit too self-conscious, actually. When people are looking at me, I don't really love it.
Really?
Yeah.
That would make acting very difficult.
Yeah.
You could be a puppeteer.
That, you know what? Can you imagine the arms I'd have if I was a puppeteer, just from holding your arms above
Yeah,
your
you'd
shoulder?
be like totally bulked
I'd
up
be
and
so buff. And then I have these little withered legs just hanging there. Oh, I guess they walk around too. Never mind.
So are you saying that like puppeteers are like they have this total upper body bulkiness and like these little withered legs that they can barely walk around on?
Can you not repeat the stupid stuff I say? So make you
Well, I
better.
repeat the smart stuff too.
Yeah, you do. You do. Okay. What do you want anyway?
Well, I was thinking we've talked occasionally about grit
Yeah.
and having to be tough.
How
Like,
important it is if you're a creative person that you have to have grit if you want to do it for money.
yeah, and so the reason why you got to have grit is because you've got to, you're gonna have really tough moments.
God, yeah.
And then the other piece of the other inspiration, this, yet again, we come back to our interview with Kath Monstring, right?
Hmm.
But she really wanted to go to UVM, applied, they said no. Went through this whole rigmarole, applied again, they said no again. It still ends up in Burlington, Vermont, becoming a very successful artist, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
She had to show grit, and I'm sure those rejection letters from UVM were really hard. And so it got me to thinking, what would I have selected as, what are my hardest moments and what are your hardest moments?
Good question. Yeah. Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
I want you to go first.
Okay, then. Well, I'll tell you. It's funny because my hardest moments were not so much about getting rejected for stuff. My hardest moments were more about realizing I sucked at what I wanted to do more than anything else in the world.
Ooh.
So, I'm thinking 1997 was a tough year. This is unrelated, but I was newly married and we were living in a town I hadn't lived in before. I'd visited. We were living in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. And tough winters, long winters, wind chill
Mm.
factor, we're talking like 40 degrees below 0 Celsius. So my eyebrows would freeze as I walked to work. Like I'd actually have to duck into a doorway and blink so they wouldn't freeze.
And you're a well-known surfer girl too.
Oh yeah, fuck you.
So
And
there's no ocean there.
I'm from a temperate rainforest, but I did learn to skate, so that's one good thing. Anyway,
Oh,
let's try and keep this
yeah.
short.
Keep it on track.
I realized I was a bad writer. I had written at that point, how many novels in was I? Maybe three or four. I was on probably my, I don't know, maybe my third novel. And yeah, it was my third. And it was ambitious. And I realized I couldn't do it. I was trying to write in like a diary format and have it be a novel, and I just didn't have the chops. I was working full time. I had a job in the conference industry, so it was long hours, lots of travel. And I was living with my husband, and we didn't have kids, but I was taking every fucking night school writing course known to man, probably. And I had gotten a scholarship to this program at the Humber School for Writers. And I was working with this guy. He wrote The White Hotel. DM Thomas. I was working with DM Thomas long distance. He was in England. And he basically wrote me and said, you know, It wasn't a rejection. It was more like, let's work on the other one because this one doesn't have what you're, doesn't have what you need it to have in order to make a
Mhm.
viable novel. Plus, I was trying to do something I didn't know how to do. I got very discouraged. I said to Rich, my husband, I'm not good at this. I'm going to quit. And he'd
Wow.
only known me at that point for, I think, 3 years. And he looked at me and he didn't really look at me with shock very often. I mean, but he looked at me and was like, but you're passionate about this. This is the only thing I know that you're passionate about. I
Wow.
mean, I loved my work. I loved all kinds of stuff in my life, but this was the one thing we had both probably thought I was going to do come hell or high water. I'd been writing at that point for about 10 years, over 10 years.
Hmm.
Anyway, and I'd gotten a book published sort of by accident. So I had felt immediately that it was a viable thing, but not to make a living at necessarily, but to get better at. And then I'd written these practice novels that
Hmm.
I didn't even send out because I knew they were bad. But this one, I was like, I suck. I've been trying really hard, and I didn't feel like I was getting better. I was, but I didn't feel like it.
Can I ask a question? Did it
Yeah.
feel that comment from the other writer? Did it feel like you had put kind of what you believed was all that you had into it, and then his comment just really knocked the wind out of you?
No, it wasn't really that. It was more like he was just confirming something I was already thinking.
Ah.
It was realizing that I didn't have the technical skill to pull off what I wanted to pull off, and I had been studying writing for 10 years and writing a lot for 10 years, and I was like, shouldn't I know how to do this by now? And so, anyway, I didn't quit. I stopped working on a project and I rethought. I did some thinking about what's it going to take for me to get better at this.
Hmm.
And it wasn't anything different than what I was doing. It was just that I took a step back and said something to myself that made me recommit. How about you? Tell me about yours.
Yeah, well, so it kind of one led to the next in a weird way. But the first, I was a journalist and I really loved being a journalist. I covered politics, but a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah.
And my degrees in political science, I felt like there was a real way to be part of what's going on as a journalist
Yeah.
and to have I don't want to say impact because it wasn't like I was trying to use, reporting as a way to change things, but by just being really good at what I did, I could help people understand
Yeah.
why politics does what it does better
Love that.
and what policy means for them on a more personal kind of level as opposed to what other people are doing with the horse race and one thing and another.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to grow, in journalism, one pathway is you start in a smaller newspaper, right? So a small city, that kind of thing. And basically you go up in size of city, right? Because that defines like readership and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make that jump from a small New England city I was in to a much bigger city. And
Mm.
my goal ultimately was I would have loved to have been at the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Yeah.
But I was looking at, Boston, Baltimore, those kinds of places. And I was also trying to figure out a way to have a better life for my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really be able to earn more money because in these smaller newspapers you really don't make crap. I mean
Yeah.
it's paid. And so then I thought, it'd be kind of an adventure to work for the AP because they are all over the world and they're all over the country. So you can do this job and be, just about anywhere, it felt like.
Hmm.
And I went and applied and got in touch with I knew that all these different AP reporters because we were all competing with each other and reached out to their head editor and he said, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing what you got. And I was doing this all sort of behind the scenes of where I worked at the time because, you don't want them to know you're looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I sent my samples and resume and, all that kind of stuff. And, I didn't hear back. And then I called him. He goes, oh, I haven't heard, give me a call in 2 days at this, noon or something like that.
Yeah.
So I went and I gave him a call and I had to sneak out of the office. And he's said to me, "Look, I'm not even, I wouldn't even hire you to make phone calls for my reporters."
What?
Yeah.
Holy
He was,
shit.
yeah, he was like, "You have no place. You should not be doing this."
What?
Yeah, and it really, and I had reached out prior to that to like the Washington Post, New York Times. And the gist of what they had said is, look, until, unless you do something really huge, we're always going to hire the Ivy Leaguer
Yeah. Fuck.
just out of college instead of you, because that's just the way this works.
Yeah.
And so hearing that from him really confirmed that, okay, journalism isn't going to be a future,
What the
right?
fuck?
I mean, I could be banging my head against this wall and doing, and at that point I had won tons of awards. I, interviewed the three US presidents, vice presidents, I had covered huge stories. I had covered elections, all this kind of stuff.
And it didn't
And
matter to anybody?
it didn't matter to anybody. Yeah.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
it was really, really frustrating.
I find that shocking, actually.
Yeah. And so I just realized in that moment, it's not going to work.
God almighty.
I don't want to spend the next 20 years, making basically 22, $23,000 a year with two
Oh,
kids and, all the rest of it.
yeah.
And trying to, sometimes I would take jobs in restaurants. So I would be working all day and then going to the restaurant at night to work just to get, keep everything going.
Jesus.
And so I'm driving back to the office and I get into the office and everybody's celebrating.
Why?
And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, well, we just got the press awards announcement for our state and we won a ton of awards and you're a finalist for Writer of the Year.
Fuck me.
Which meant like, I had basically beaten all of the AP reporters that this guy said he wouldn't hire me to make phone calls for.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That is a fucked up
So,
world there in journalism.
yeah. And so that led me to think I got to find something else. And, a lot of searching and, blah, blah, blah. And I find my way to ghostwriting,
Yeah.
right? Get an opportunity, which is a big break. Take advantage of that, move on, make my next opportunity.
Yeah.
And the opportunity after that was I was working for sort of a small kind of ad hoc company of ghostwriting.
Mm.
And the person who ran it was really impressed, wanted me to be one of the partners. I would have been the third partner. I
Wow.
was finally making enough income that I didn't have to worry about how I was going to pay bills. I
Yeah.
wasn't, looking for second and third jobs and all that kind of stuff. And it was really this moment of, I found it.
Yeah.
I found my space. I have found, this place where I belong.
Yeah.
And literally, I think it was like a month later, the economy collapsed. It was the Great Recession.
Mm.
The clients that we had been working for basically as one business, but then there were some other businesses, all just said no more.
Yeah.
We're not spending another cent. And that was it. It was done. It was
It's
over.
over.
And a month after that, I was in a vineyard, pruning a vineyard. I was working at a restaurant. I was taking every odd job that I possibly could just
Yeah.
to be able to pay the rent and feed my kids.
And that's the grit.
And yeah, and that's where the grit came in again. And it was just busting my ass finding any kind of work
Yeah.
that I could do. And I remember they had this big job fair, and you had to go to this mall to park. And then they were having these buses or trams that would take you to where the job fair was.
Yeah. Right.
I got there, the job fair started at 10 in the morning. I got to this parking lot at 8 in the morning.
Wow.
There were already about 10,000 people there.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And it was this vast sea of unemployed people.
Yeah.
And I spent, I think, 5 hours in line to get to a tram and never made it. They shut it down. There was just too many people.
Wow. What a nightmare.
And so I just, yeah, I walked away from that not knowing, what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
What do you do? Where do you go? And it was out of my control. It was this huge economic collapse and
Yeah.
catastrophe.
Yeah.
And there was nothing left to do but to just take any job that I could get,
Hmm.
writing or not. So
Yeah.
any opportunity that came along, I took it. right? I was writing 1,000 word articles for $20 a pop, you know,
Wow, are you
in
kidding me?
between doing physical labor during the day and restaurant
Yeah.
work at night
Wow.
and all that kind of stuff. And finally, just slowly clawed my way back.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the book was that made the next opportunity, but it was a memoir. I remember that much. And it finally was paying more in line with what I had been getting paid to do
Yeah.
the ghostwriting. And I started to be able to then leverage and build things back.
Jesus Christ,
Um,
that is
but it was, yeah,
scary.
it was very, very hard. And, you know, the interesting thing is despite these feelings of, you know, I should quit, I should do something else, you know, da 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 da, there were also these moments like winning the award, right?
Yeah,
After getting that, you know, that person sort of saying you shouldn't be doing this and then getting this award, there were always these moments that would keep coming along that would say to me, no, 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 keep going, keep pushing.
absolutely. Oh my God, that's so great stories that we, and you know that means they were hard because all great stories have a lot of hardship in them, I think. But I want to ask you something. Can you say the name of this guy who told you?
No, well, and not for any, you know, reason that I want to keep him secret. I can't remember what his name was. For whatever reason, my memory is I'm in a phone booth, but I think actually I was just in my car on a cell phone.
Hmm.
But yeah, and I just remember hearing it and just feeling like, fuck, what have I done?
Yeah, exactly. What have I done that I wasn't born with a Ivy
Yeah.
League education in my mouth? Like,
Yeah, and just thinking I could do this. You know, it's the exact
yeah,
same that with your story. You know, you came back to Rich and you were feeling like, what have I done? Why am I doing this?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, have I wasted all this time and effort?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I was feeling like any of it was a waste. I think what I was feeling was like, I am not good at this. And I relied more on my own judgment. You were asking earlier if what the mentor said affected me. I think yes, but I've always relied on my own judgment more because of the way I grew up. My parents were great, but they're Scottish and nobody gets validation for anything that you
Mm.
try, except occasionally. Like my dad would give me some nice validation once in a while, but I didn't trust validation, I just
Right.
thought, so that's why I have always taken my own opinion to be the most important opinion about my creative output, right? Not about my relationships and stuff. For that, you have to get other people's, obviously, the people you're in a relationship with is opinion, but yeah, yours were so much harder because I mean, I didn't have kids at that point. I already had a really good day job that was very safe. And so I think to lose the career you've fallen in love with because the world is shitty, and then to lose a second career that you've fallen in love with because the economy tanks, and then to really just grind your way back out of both situations by showing grit, or what they might call pluck, in the old days.
Yeah, or stupidity.
Plucky lad. No, never stupidity. It's a powerful story, I think, for any creative, that things are going to change, like just like with photographers now, some kid with an iPhone can do for 300 bucks what they used to pay a real cinema or photographer 25,000 bucks to do on a magazine shoot, or 15,000,
Mhm.
whatever they used to pay Annie Leibovitz. The world is going to change. It's going to suck your livelihood away from you, and you're
Mhm.
going to have to come back multiple times.
Yeah. No, and I think, you know, we all hear these stories and we pass them around and they become, in a sense, myth of the person who just ground it out, produced that one thing, and they became famous and, you know, off they go. And I
TV
think the
Street.
sort of in writing the prototypical example is Stephen King, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But I think the very, 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 very common happens to 98 or 99% of people is they have this crux moment
yeah,
where they get torn down.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of people who say enough.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I can't stand the unpredictability of it. You know, I'm not good enough, you know, whatever it is,
yeah,
walk away. And then there's that handful of people who meet that moment and push through it.
Keep going. Yeah.
And it's not that one is right and one is wrong. I think the people who stop are stopping for very legitimate and correct reasons that are personal to themselves. And I think the
Yeah.
people who push through, while showing strength in this endeavor, this area of endeavor, are just doing what they have to do.
Me too. Oh, that's well said. Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, nobody, Rich said to me, "You're passionate about it." That also did not affect my decision too much. I thought, "Oh, that's weird. I'm passionate," because I hadn't thought of myself that way about it. But it was just
Mhm.
more information. I really had to take a step back and then recommit from within my own heart,
Mhm.
that was beyond my control. I was just doing what I had to do. I couldn't live without it.
Yeah. So, to people listening, we'd love to hear your story because
Yeah.
I think everybody has one. I don't think there's anybody who's doing what we do in any artistic creative domain who hasn't had that moment.
Yeah.
So, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks so much for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We would love to hear how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email to giftedunderachievers@substack.com. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Hope you have a great creative week.